Hello. Welcome back, everyone, to our human trafficking awareness segment. Yes, and I am Director Dominique McGee of Breakin Khainz nonprofit organization, and we are about to get into it. So let's have this talk. So yesterday was the conversation, just a real conversation with me. So today, let's get into that information. I'm excited. Let me get groovy. I'm just playing. So this morning, guys, I have permission to share, not deeply, but some things that actually relate to the information given today. So I'm really excited about that. I won't be releasing any names or anything like that, but we will be getting into it. You guys left me some really great questions, and I jotted down a few, and I am working on a couple of screens. So if I'm looking here or there, please give me some grace because I brought my notes, and if I don't readily answer any of your questions while we're speaking, please also give me some grace because I'm working on multiple screens and I can't really see it at that time. Okay, but I'm going to take care of it. I'm going to make sure I check in with you and answer any questions that you may have. All right, so let's get into it. What is this? How do we identify the trafficking in our community? Like, let's get into these conversations today. Yes. So, one thing before I get into our questions, hold on, guys. It is kind of warm in here. Excuse me. It is definitely kind of warm in here. But okay, let's get into it. It is important to understand that human trafficking can happen anywhere. Anywhere. Okay? I'm not just saying it's in African American communities, it's overseas, it's not. It can happen in any of our communities, all of our communities. And the fact that I'm saying that, I'm actually getting to that it probably is happening in all of our communities. It's just some of our communities are getting hit harder, but we want to be fully equipped to identify and to be able to intervene the best way we can safely. Always safely. Remember that. Always safely. I'm not asking anybody to go out here and play Rambo. I'm not asking anybody to play law enforcement. Okay? There's ways to get people in danger and there's ways to help people, okay? All right, so let's get into this. And you know your girl got her notes. So once again, bear with me. All right, so like I want to say, coming from in Texas, in Houston, in the area that I am working in the movement, in the hub of trafficking, noticing what does human trafficking look like in our communities. Now, there are tracks or blades or strips, and these are also in every major city. Let's put that out there. And these are the places where you see it. What you see the girls walking back and forth, walking the blade, walking the track or the strip, and you see pimping, you see buyers, you see all of this going on. But it's a little bit more sublet within our communities. It looks a little normal on the outside, I want to say. Because when it comes to in our communities, when we're looking at how to identify it, I want to say in areas And we'll get into that shortly. I want to put that in your mind in areas. But a client of mine expressed this, there, like, this part of her story I can share is how she ended up into her trafficking situation was growing up in an abusive home. She really didn't have the support she needed at home, and she ran away and ended up in a community where she met someone that offered to provide her basic needs, to be there for her, to care for her. And that is similar to my own story in a lot of ways. But it wasn't an offer to provide my needs, and I was taken. But let's get into how these stories begin to look, okay? Let's get into some things. Now, the trafficker will get to know the person, get to know the disparities, get to know what's going on, get to know how they can isolate this person, who's going to be the problem in this person's life. Do they have any support system that will cause them a problem? And if so, how do they isolate them from that support system? So I want to say, if you run up against a Romeo pimp or Romeo trafficker, this is the one that will woo you, that will give you gifts and shower you and pretend to be there and love and care for you. And other pimps approach that to a degree, because this is the grooming stage. This happens in all forms of abuse. The grooming stage, where they get close to the individual, and they begin to fill in the gaps in that person's life. If they lack love or care, low self esteem, they start to build them up and make them feel like they're special, they're everything, and that only they can care about them, only they will be there for them. And they show them things and do things that have this person may have not never experienced. They may express love and care in a way that these individuals never experienced. And in that, they're able to take them away from their environment, away from their family, away from their support systems, and bring them into their own world and isolate them from the outside. Anything outside of this world no longer exists. And after they have love bombed you and gave you all this care and uplifted you, now it's a you owe me kind of thing. Now here the abuse kicks in. Now the control tactics kick in. Now the mental manipulation kicks in. And a lot of our youth and our young girls and our women are in a domestic violence relationship with their trafficker. And this is a form of trafficking in the worst degree. And when let's going into identifying it in our community, our young girls meeting a guy and becoming rebellious, coming home with gifts and presents, disappearing, doing things that they wouldn't normally behave like. And now they don't want to deal with their support system. They may not want to deal with their parents. They're at odds with school. They're making really bad decisions to be with whomever this person is. And in this person is isolating the individual into coercing them and manipulating them into their world. So once we see out, and what I noticed as well, another client, it starts with familiar trafficking. It may be a parent, a uncle, an aunt, a cousin, or a friend of the family, or a coach, even a spiritual leader that may have a relationship with their caregiver that is inappropriate, and they may be manipulating individuals and youth and children into relationships and sexual relations with certain people, selling them to their friends or family or to outsiders. It can go so many different ways. And my client Miles has a a thought that he gave me. And I'm so excited that I can use Miles' name because Miles works very hard, closely with me in noticing things that the normal eye wouldn't notice. Now, Miles grows. Now, this is not his real name. In case you were wondering, that is not his real name. But now, Miles grew up. How do I say this? Miles grew up as a parent who was from a parent that was in the game, and because of this, Miles' upbringing was not in the healthiest environments. He was exposed to prostitution because that was the role. And he was exposed to watching his mother become abused. He was exposed to a lot. And in the end, he was exposed to the death of his own mother due to a substance. Now, Miles was left to take care of himself at 15. Miles went in and out of the system, and Miles endured some sexual abuse himself. Now, so when Miles comes back into society, Miles is kind of messed up, his mind state and how things should go and how things should be, how he should treat himself, how he should treat others, what is normal, what isn't normal. And when I initially met Miles, I kind of didn't like him. It's I'm gonna say that I kind of didn't like him based off how he was, and it was my own son who brought Miles to me and said, "No, Mom, you really need to give him the word. You need to talk to Miles because Miles needs you." And when I sat down with Miles and Miles told me all of this, he became a part of my family. And I got a love for Miles that is crazy because he taught me to see compassion in areas that I hadn't considered. That a lot of brokenness, a lot of this is happening in our communities due to brokenness, broken homes. Familiar trafficking starts with someone we know, someone we trust within our support systems. So, noticing children who are isolated, who don't have a support system, who may be using substances at a young age, who may be really acting out for self-harming, these are signs that something may be going on, that the pain that the child is trying to release is more than the pain the child is trying to that the child is feeling while they are self-harming. It's a lot of ways to notice the child's never in school, or the child is always in places that they shouldn't be. And in approaching this situation is a kind word turns away wrath. Being there, being someone they can talk to, someone they can confide in, and going from there in the most healthy and proper ways. Let's get into other ways to identify within our community. Now that we got with Miles, it is important to say that none of us knew we were being trafficked. I didn't have a name for what happened to me until I was well in my 30s. I didn't have a name for that pain, so I internalized it as it was my fault. It was something that I caused, it was something that I did. And this is something that I'm only worth because this is what all I know. Because I just looked at it like, okay, child abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse is just I'm just this is all I'm worth. This is what's gonna keep happening to me. And I didn't think that it's the thing that we have came so far from that. Hey, stay away from that white van that's driving down the road with the creepy white guy that's gonna kidnap you. That is not trafficking. I'm sorry, we have came so far from that. That is not it. It's a long grooming process where you are studied and watched. As I said yesterday, looking into the pimp literature and the code, they actually look for individuals that show signs of abuse, that show signs of prior abuse. So, how do we see it? If it's not the white van, if it's not the creepy guy, what is it? And it's so crazy and it's so sad to say that it looks normal. It may look like a girlfriend and boyfriend. It can look so many different ways. But I want to tell you what it goes for. Human traffickers are looking for individuals that are experiencing poverty and that are going through, how can I say, mental health issues and substance abuse, who have prior um prior history of sexual, emotional, and physical abuse. And to learn this about someone, you have to spend time with that person. You have to get to know them. You have to get to know the people they're around. You have to get to know their family. So you know what you're up against. So when we're looking at, okay, how do we drive awareness? Because when I'm looking at my notes, I did take down that 83% of human trafficking victims, we are saying that we have experienced some sort of poverty. We have 96% experienced physical, sexual, and emotional abuse prior, prior, previously. before they entered into their traffic situation. 93% experienced substance abuse and mental health challenges. They had challenges already. We had challenges and situations going on already. So when we think about, okay, how do we pay attention to what's going on? I'm going to tell you how I began to notice what was going on in our communities. I began to see young girls, yeah, they would show up to stores and even their bus stop location and things like that, but they weren't going to school. And I began to show up too. So I can just be a fly on the wall and see what's going on. And then I started to notice who was homeless, who had habits, who really didn't have anyone, who was easily manipulated and conversed into doing things because they didn't have a family, they didn't have guidance. If you are 14, 15, and 16 years old and you have been out on the streets by yourself, you have been on substances since elementary school, you don't have guidance, you don't have proper education, it's a lot going on. So when we look at our at-risk youth, when we look at our troubled youth or our troubled individuals, we want to be aware of what we can do to assist another, not leaving people out there by saying they did that to themselves or that's not my responsibility, turning a blind eye to the fact that someone else will come and it won't be for the better of these individuals. So let's get into some of these questions. So, and I'm definitely going to get a little deeper into identifying because through these questions, you guys, I definitely want to give some space for that. When you speak, you don't speak in blame, and why? Well, I am not blaming anyone. I'm gonna say this. I'm not in the space where it's your fault, it's your fault, it's your fault. I have come to terms that there are some very wicked people in this world. There are some diabolical, wicked people that will do some dark things to you. And that doesn't mean that it's everybody. But now that I am aware of the possibilities of danger by experience, I am using that as a way to protect myself, that I am fully aware of the dangers that is possible in this world when it comes to trusting people and putting myself out there and going for certain things. Now, the way I was done when I was younger, I couldn't be done again today. And that to a degree, that's why I don't have a blame thing. I gave it to God a long time ago. Great question. Are you angry for what happened to you? Um, yeah. But again, I give that to God because I don't want to be to allow that to run who I am. Do you know what pain and anger can do together? Damage. Damage to your joy, to your peace, to your willingness to move forward. To it can do damage to who you are meant to be. And you understanding that what happened to us can take us a long way. Okay, what does trafficking look like in our communities? Now, this can vary from community to community, but pay attention to high activity locations that youth and young people always seems to be at, always seem to want to be. Pay attention to the traffic coming and going at certain locations within your community that attract young girls and boys. Pay attention to the overly excited individuals or the over the people who are overly interested in underage individuals. Being watchful. If it doesn't look right, then 9 times out of 10, it's not right. I'd rather be wrong than right. And I don't care who I offend. And that's real when I say that. But let's continue. Let's continue because I'm going to give you some more points. What are some of the forms of pimps? Hmm. Well, um, the Romeo pimp would be the lover. The Romeo pimp would be the one that would play the boyfriend. To me, this is one of the most dangerous individuals because they're coming in, they'll come into your life, they'll come into your family, they'll watch and learn everything about everybody. And then one day, that individual will disappear and be gone, and you don't know if or when you will see your family member again. Because what they thought was love will turn into a master manipulative manipulation, will turn into abuse, will turn into something hideous, and it will also turn that individual into someone else because that mental control, that emotional control, that connection that they have built based off of love, care, and compassion. And I'm the only one that can give that to you. I'm the only one that can provide that to you. So paying attention to whom your loved ones are involved with, asking the proper questions, paying attention to the way that they are treated, pay attention to the way things start to move around and how they start to move around. If they don't feel right, 9 times out of 10, they are not right. And I'm not saying that we have the right to go around judging people's situations or circumstances, but you do know that you can see signs when your family member is not themselves. When they begin to behave in mannerisms that is not them. And they begin to isolate themselves and cast a wedge between you and them and get involved in things that they definitely wouldn't be involved in. And there is Mr. If you want it, I got it. This guy, he definitely will prey on you for habits, for self sustainability, for basic needs. If you are homeless, don't have the financial means to care for yourself, this person will come in like your hero. They will come in like your savior. And that's if they only have your best interest at heart and offer you all of these things until it's time for you to pay back what you owe. Also, a high, lift you high, bring you low, lift you high, bring you low individual. You will see also the form of one day. this person will disappear and be try like they once they get them in their grips, they're gone. The battle of finding them and looking for them and trying to get them out of the life begins. And that is so serious. It's so serious. Spiritual trafficking, which is cult trafficking, and this is within spiritual or rit- ritualistic organizations that will get you all involved in a spiritual level, and it goes left from there. Drug trafficking. Drugs and sex go hand in hand, and getting involved with the wrong people and the wrong things. And it may not be you, it may be your trafficker. He may also be in the drug game. He may also be dealing with people, and the only thing that he has to offer them is the woman. So then the turning out stage begins where you have to do this so we can live. You have to do this so we can survive. You have to do this. You have to come. You have to do this. And it's usually wrapped around a substance. And then you have labor trafficking, organ trafficking. Labor trafficking is false opportunity, promising room, board, housing, all of these things, and you get there and you're on a plantation. Not even less. That's just an example. Sorry, guys, I definitely don't want to offend anybody. But yeah, you're somewhere picking peppers. You're somewhere and you're not getting paid what you're supposed to be getting paid. You're somewhere in inhumane conditions, living and working, and it's not what it was supposed to be. Organ trafficking, and that's another form of trafficking, guys. I know I have stepped out of pimps and went into different forms of trafficking, but I'm going to get into um guerrilla pimping, the last one, and I'm extremely familiar with this one, which is they kidnap you. They will take you and they will traffic you across many state lines as they can and abuse you, beat you, every form of submission. Any form of abuse will be applied to bring about the submission. So, woo, that was kind of heavy, guys. But great question, great question. What are some of the safe ways to get involved? If you see something, say something. Offer services, or even if it's just giving a card to someone, referring them to Breaking Chains, referring them to um, um, United Against Human Trafficking, referring them to the landing, referring them to an organization that will do something to aid them, to help better their situation, their circumstances, to get them out and into a safe space that they can leave their trafficker. There are services and resources that will aid our our youth and our young adults and our young men and women in these situations. Also, be someone within your community that is looked at as an example or leader, somebody that people can go to, somebody that people can trust, so that if you are that person in your community, 9 times out of 10, the youth will feel comfortable. People will feel comfortable to disclose and come see you, and you can be the person that coordinates calling the police or figuring out if they want to go further with resources or not. I'm not asking again anybody to load up and become Rambo or to act like you are the police. but I'm asking you to take considerable consideration in what you would do if it is your family member. How far would you go if it was your family member? Now, what if I know someone who may be in a trafficking situation? If you know someone that may be in a trafficking situation and I have mentioned anything that may ring a bell to you, you can get in contact with me. You can get in contact with other organizations, or you can simply just refer services to them. When it comes to being in the life, no one will come out until they are ready, until they feel like it is safe to do so, and that services will be consistently given to them. They have been lied to, they have been hurt, they have been manipulated, they have been abused to the highest degree. We don't want to create a space where this is not enough and they have to, and they go back to their life. They go running because they feel like that is more suitable or that's all they have. When you open up a door to help someone, you must be ready and there in on all levels. So, referring them to services. Now, if you see anyone getting done wrong and in a dangerous situation, by all means, get license plates, numbers, and call 911. Report the situation. There is the hotline for human trafficking hotline. I would definitely be happy to leave it on the screen for you all. But let's also get into the last question, which is a absolute great question before we get out of here. All right, so what are your views on the internet? Well, my views on the internet is very serious. I feel like the internet has opened up the floodgates for more trafficking situations to happen. And because the internet is widespread information, and once the information is out there, it cannot be retracted or recanted. So the internet has made things very bad for us. And I'm telling you this because I am an active model outside of the director. I am an active actress outside of the human trafficking movement. And there are some opportunities that are presented to me that are fraudulent, and I'm looking at it and I'm like, dang, I've entered into another world where it's extreme for human trafficking possibilities. There's so many different avenues. You have to maintain a healthy relationship with your youth, a healthy relationship with your teens, a healthy relationship with your family members to be able to for them to be open with you if they are meeting anyone online, if they are talking with other people online, or if they are giving out personal information to anyone online, such as their photos, their phone number, their address. Because this, you don't ever know who's on the other side of that screen that you are giving all of this information to, even if it's a FaceTime. I understand, I get it, but that is not enough today in time. Groomers have it set up where, yes, the person you are talking to is the one who is sent to groom you. You are giving all of this, your 100%, all of the real information, everything, because it may be a dating site. It may be a modeling opportunity. If you're an artist, it may be a performing opportunity. If you are an influencer or a online seller, whatever the case may be, we're in the day where the internet is wide open and we are all giving so much of ourselves to the world and we're not exercising caution. We're letting predators in our homes. We're giving them access to our children. by giving our children unlimited access to the internet without parental controls, without boundaries, and without valuable information and caution telling them the dangers of sharing their location, the dangers of sharing their information, the dangers of sharing their address, the dangers of sharing their image. They'll look at where our kids go to school. They'll look at where your wife goes to the gym. Look at where you go to party at. It's a lot of things that we give up on the internet today that is extremely dangerous and that allows traffickers to have a foothold in our homes and access to our families and our children. So, what can you do better? Now, being honest, it's about being aware of what's going on around you, aware of the people who are in your community, who they are. It's aware of what your children have going on. We don't live in the day and in the time that we can dismiss anything. We live in the day and the time where we have to question and have to be on top of everything. I'm not saying jump out the gate and start accusing everybody of doing all different kind of things. But I'm telling you to be alert, to pay attention. Look at the behavior. Look deeper into the circumstances and situations. Ask questions. And if you need to, if it's any type of hostile situation, do not forget to contact law enforcement. Get a tag number, get a phone number if you can, take a picture, and contact law enforcement. It's very important to know, to be in tune with our community, with our friends, and our families. Because it's often the subtle changes that tells us everything that we know about keeping our loved ones safe. And once again, guys, thank you for coming through, having a conversation. You know how we do with Director Dominique McGee of Breakin Khainz nonprofit organization. And if you would like to know further, you want to get deeper into the information, feel free to check out some of the links we will be dropping out because there the Polaris has great information. We definitely can connect you guys with many resources, including Breaking Chains, to aid our communities in this growth and development, because that's what we are about, right? Say it with me. Not in our homes, not in our schools, not in our communities, and not on our watch. Stop the trafficking. Thank you guys for your time today. And I am Director McGee. Bye-bye. Hey, don't forget, like and share, and stay tuned because we have some special guests. The men will be in the building next week, baby. They're going to be talking about standing up and protecting our community, the signs of abuse when it comes to young men, and how to get involved. How to protect yourselves, how to protect the families. Baby, let's get into it because I'm excited. I'm excited when the men come and speak. Come on now, stand up. Talk about protecting the women. Let's